Democratic Congressman Jason Altmire must have stunned his colleagues. He voted yes with the House Republicans on the stopgap measure. Pennsylvania Congressman joins us live. So how popular are you with the Democratic members of Congress, having voted yes for that?
Well, that's what's important. What's important is representing my district. And I think if you look at the bill we had yesterday, the option was to do nothing and continue the fight. And as the clock ticks, we have an obligation to keep the government funded.
Do you have any problem with the way this whole process has unraveled?
I do, but we are where we are. We shouldn't be in this position. We are in this position, and the obligation that we have is to the American people. We need to reduce the deficit. We need to keep the government operating. We need to fund the military. There's different points of view on all of those things and how to get there, but we have until midnight to get this done.
I guess, the thing that many Americans are upset about is that last year your party didn't get a budget. And maybe that's last year, and maybe that's old news, but it's sort of like, we send you members of Congress and members of the Senate to Washington to do the job, and then for political reasons, because it's an election year, it certainly appears to us is that nobody wanted to make a hard decision, so you just kept passing it along and passing it along, and it doesn't sort of look like that doesn't look like leadership. That looks like politics.
I think you have accurately described what the situation was that led to us being at this point in time where we're less than 2 hours away from midnight. But again, that's where we are. So the obligation I have is how to keep the government operating. And the reason I voted for that stopgap measure yesterday was for that reason.
Is this about is this about money? I mean, now at this point, or is this about the Republicans trying to get something done with Planned Parenthood and some of their which they feel deep conviction about?
It appears that those riders have been taken out of this final bill. But remember, this fight we're having tonight is just a skirmish. We still have the debt ceiling to deal with in a few weeks, and we're going to have the 2012 budget, which is a long budget, with 12 different appropriations votes with the same deadline for all 12 bills. We're going to go through this again.
I realize that you're on the more conservative side of the Democratic Party, so maybe this is, maybe this isn't the question for you, but I'm curious how you're going to vote on the debt ceiling, whether you've given it some thought.
Well, I need to see what the package looks like. How long is the debt ceiling going to be for? What's the dollar amount we're raising it to? And what are they going to attach to it? As I'm sure you understand, they're almost certainly going to have other things added to it in order to accumulate the votes to pass it. I need to see what that is.
I asked Senator Thune whether or not the Republican senators had any sort of role in this discussion with Senator Harry Reid on behalf, representing the Senate in these discussions. I'm curious if in the House of Representatives, if Speaker Boehner had Democratic Democratic House members involved in the process.
I think all of us are involved in our own way, depending on where you are on the spectrum. Speaker Boehner certainly understands that he has the ability with a good bill to pick up some Democratic votes, and it's those of us that are in the middle that would have the opportunity to support good legislation.
But do you guys sort of just sit, as the opposing party, just sort of sit and wait to see what the leadership does, essentially?
Well, we all work with each other, and we all play a different role. Certainly the meetings at the White House are three people, the President, the Speaker, and the Senate Majority Leader. But within the House, we're all talking to each other constantly about this.
Are you impressed, disappointed, or you pick a word, with the President's leadership on this?
Well, let's see how this finishes.
I know, but right now.
I think the President getting involved at this point is appropriate. I think he's doing everything he can, and if we get to a deal, I think that that's one of the reasons that we got there.
Because of his input?
One of the reasons, yeah.
Do you think if he got involved earlier, I know he sent Vice President Biden, gotten involved earlier, would we be sort of, watching the clock right now?
Yeah, I don't like to look back and play Monday morning quarterback, but I do think...
It tells us how to act in the future. It gives us an idea of what we should do for our next crisis.
Well, I think given the two situations we talked about, the debt ceiling and the 2012 budget, the President certainly, I think, has shown that his leadership is required on this.
Congressman, thank you, sir.
Thanks.
And we'll be watching to see what happens in the House.